Welcome back to Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. Before we jump back into the show, I need to do a quick shout out to one of our new sponsors, which is HP. Now, some of you may be thinking, hold on, Phil, you were the CTO at HP. Isn't this kind of inside, baseball with the old company? And I'm like, well, yes, I was the CTO at HP. I retired in 2011. But the partnership with HP is more than just about a normal sponsorship. It's about their support for the role that we're doing with hacking autism. Now, I started hacking autism when I was actually at HP. It was a corporate program, and then they encouraged me actually to take it outside and take it with me. And hacking autism is a program whereby we work on technologies for those on the autism spectrum, but we also look at employment opportunities. Those that have an autism diagnosis have an 81, that's right, 81% unemployment rate. And I'm a big believer that you actually, when you're hiring process, you should look for neurodiversity. People have look at opportunities and look at problems differently than you and the rest of your organization do. And so therefore, it actually creates a real spark to your innovation and creativity opportunities within your organization. So HP is sponsoring, and the money that they fund for that sponsorship actually frees up the dollars that we can apply to the nonprofit activities. So that is the motivator. But at the same time, HP does do great products. We're using, for instance, the new Z2 workstations to run the show. We have a new HP Slice here that we're actually running all of the Zoom collaboration on. And I am the proud owner of an EliteBook 360 laptop. Love it. So go check it out, killerinnovations.com/HP. You can see all the technologies that we are using now here in the studio from HP. And you can also see about opportunities to get some good deals. So again, killerinnovations.com/HP. And with that, let's continue on in our conversation with Kelly Leonard, Executive Director over at Second City. Now, Kelly, as we were talking earlier, you've got Second City Works. You work with a lot of clients. I do work with a lot of clients, do a lot of coaching and mentoring, and I run this thing called an Innovation Bootcamp course. But it's always fun when you engage with these clients because you always get little different insights, little different set of stories. So share some of the stories from Second City Works and some of the interesting clients that you guys have been able to take what you do at Second City and apply it to the business world.
Sure. Well, we're both baseball fans. You know, you're a White Sox fan. I'm a Cubs fan. We're not going to get into that. But a couple of decades ago, we got a call from Major League Baseball. And they have a program that they'd run for years with high potential rookies. And what was happening is they bring in psychologists to kind of talk to the rookies and put them through some sessions. And at this point, the rookies were not responding. They were not relating. There was a lot of, multiculturalism at work here. And they just weren't responding to these sort of like 50-year-old white guys in suits. And they said, you guys do some of this kind of work. And so we came in to work with all these high potential rookies on things like how do you have a conversation with the press? How do you deal with relatives who want money? What are ways you can use improvisation to kind of pivot and be a better teammate? And we've done this now for decades.
So,
and it's great fun. You also get to work with these guys who then become superstars.
So it's interesting because you don't think about it being applied. You think about it from the standpoint of innovation and creativity and having it applied along those lines. You don't think about it being applied to dealing with family members who are asking you for money.
Oh, absolutely. Well, this is the problem, right? I mean, we talked earlier about discomfort, right? That's an uncomfortable conversation, which you can immediately relate to.
Yeah, very uncomfortable.
So, what you want to do is give these individuals, and this is what we do in our work, a sense of agency, that they have some power in the situation, but that sometimes it's not just a no, sometimes it's a workaround, and you've got to have the skill and ability to hear what's really being asked of you. Because here's the other thing, that people don't always come on straight away and say, hey, can you give me money? They're going to find ways of talking around that. You need to have the skills to be able to deflect that. So it's not, Second City, most of our work is very pro-social, very positive, but also some of it is about getting out of these really sort of corners that we get backed into. When you're in a bad improv scene, right, the thing you need to do is to find a way to get out of it. And believe me, we've been through a lot of bad improv scenes.
Well, that's a good point. It's a good way to, I guess, position it. Right? Is how do you get out of it? So, what are some other examples of where improv work gets applied
Sure.
into into the corporate world, business world?
So here's a bad improv scene that we were a part of. We got a call in the box office from a concierge at the Four Seasons saying that a celebrity guest who wanted to come to the show, and the person who took the phone call didn't follow protocol, put them in the sort of side theater, and had we known that the opera diva Renee Fleming was coming to the show, we would not have put her in the production that was illegally sampling her voice. So Renee sits through an entire show where we're illegally using her material. But who knew? This opera diva is a bit of an improviser herself. And we met the next day, and she said, this actually sparked an idea because part of my job, and she was a consultant at Lyric Opera here in Chicago, part of her job was to find younger audiences and find new collaborations. And so we embarked on this multi-year relationship with Lyric Opera where, yes, we created a theatrical production together, which was totally cool. But what we also did was we started training young opera performers. We created videos for Lyric Opera to then reach out to find new audiences. So we really became embedded with them culturally because we needed to create this show together, but also as a business sort of saying, look, I mean, you are an old business that's very different from ours, but you need the same things that we bring in, which is ways to reach and communicate with new audiences, ways to co-create with those audiences. So this has been a fantastic relationship that's developed over years that all started with a bad mistake.
Well, that's the funny part, right? So here it was. Somebody in your box office mishandles the inbound from the concierge, and it turns into this unbelievable long-term collaboration. Quite funny. So in general, can you summarize just some of the findings,
Yep.
the common couple that you see with corporations that you run into? It sounds like the comfort thing is a common theme for what you come across, which holds people back.
Yeah. So people aren't listening, so we find that out. Also, people are prone to say no all the time, so we have to kind of teach them to not do that. We find that people are risk adverse. And that becomes kind of a top-down thing, right? Because a lot of people talk about wanting their employees to risk, but then if their bosses aren't supporting that or giving them language that encourages them to do that, so it works both ways. And this is the other thing about the communication we find, which is that people always think it's a one-way street, and it's never a one-way street. Someone is not listening, and someone is not being clear in their communication. So I often say this, if the only thing we did at Second City is teach you to communicate 2% better, we will have changed the world.
That is so much the case, right?
Yeah.
You have to take responsibility that the person understands what you say. You just can't put it all on their shoulder to say they didn't listen either, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing about being others focused. If you come from a place where your job is not to think of yourself, but think of the other person, you're going to be way better off. And while we say that, everything in ourselves, and the science shows us this, is built around thinking of ourselves. Our brains are wired to be concerned with our own well-being. I just spoke to a neuroscientist who said, we've been running from lions and tigers a lot longer than we've been running to get to the bus. So if you understand that the way you're wired is to normally sort of just think about yourself, but instead you fight that and you figure out a way, a technique, a practice, that's what we bring in, these practices, to get you to focus on the person in front of you and the other people in the room, your success ratio is going to go up, way up.
Perfect. So we're going to take another quick commercial break here. When we come back, I've asked Kelly to come back with a couple of things that you, the listener, can apply from improv to improve your success, your willingness to take risk, your ability to use improv. So don't go anywhere. You're going to want to listen in as we rejoin Kelly after this commercial break, and he gives us a few tips that we can apply right away to our day-to-day lives, listening being the one that I have to do a better job at. So don't go anywhere. Check out the show notes over at killerinnovations.com. Get all your links. We'll have all links to Kelly and his work But you're listening to Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.